One of the only NFL news that has happened this week, it was Sam Darnold getting traded to the Carolina Panthers. The Jets received a 6th-round pick in this year's draft, a 2nd-rounder, and a 4th-rounder in 2022. And the Panthers received Sam Darnold. So I have 2 questions for you guys. One, is this the perfect situation for Sam Darnold to succeed? And 2, is he an upgrade over Teddy Bridgewater? I think that's a fair question to ask.
Yes, I do believe this is the perfect situation for Sam Darnold. Looking at the offense, DJ Moore, Robby Anderson. I know they lost Curtis Samuel, but they got Christian McCaffrey in the background. So I think they still have a good O-line. I think this is definitely the perfect situation for for Sam Darnold. I think this is an up-and-coming young offense that can make some noise. Do I think he's better than Teddy Bridgewater? No. I think last year, even with the Saints, you saw him performing well without Drew Brees. You saw him step in, and the Saints ain't miss a beat. With Carolina, you saw a team that they wasn't as good, but they definitely competed in a lot of games that they could have won, and they were a solid team last year. And I think in Teddy Bridgewater, he didn't play bad. He played as good as he could have played, and I think he's an okay quarterback at this moment. But Sam Darnold hasn't shown us anything for us to consider him being better than Teddy Bridgewater at this point. Granted, he hasn't had the weapons Teddy Bridgewater has had, but he hasn't shown that he's better than Teddy Bridgewater at this moment.
Yeah, I don't know if there was a better spot for Sam Darnold to land in. Maybe the 49ers would have been a better situation for him. I think that would have been the best situation, but outside of that, I don't know that there were many better situations around the league. I wasn't even sure if he would get a starting job next year in the NFL, and now it looks like he's a shoo-in for the Panthers starting job next season. And you look at, their construction. They had the 18th ranked offensive line in the league last year, according to PFF. So it's a middle-of-the-pack offensive line, which is a big upgrade over what the Jets have given him over his entire tenure. I think the receiving core is better than what he's had to work with for most of his time with the Jets, at least. And Christian McCaffrey, who is such a dynamic playmaker, he would make anybody's lives easier in the backfield. So, and I like Matt Rule. I like what he's doing in Carolina. So obviously that's an improvement over Adam Gase. So this is a great situation for Sam Darnold to succeed. I don't think there's any excuses this year. This is like a last chance prove it year for him. And you asked the question about him or Teddy Bridgewater. I think that the floor is much lower for Sam Darnold, but I do think the ceiling for Sam Darnold is much higher. Okay. You look at his tape with the Jets. He made some plays that wowed you, but he made just as many plays that you did a double take and said, what was he seeing on that play? Like, he made some horrible throws as a Jet, and that had nothing to do with his offensive line, nothing to do with his receivers or his coaching. He just made some terrible decisions. I think that it was a safe bet for the Panthers. Like, I don't think this was a bad move at all. And I was reading about it. The Jets said they would have felt comfortable moving forward with him had it not been for finding Zach Wilson at 2, who they feel very good about. They said that they would have felt very good about moving forward with Sam Darnold in that system. So I definitely think he has another chapter of his career. I think he could put the Jets situation behind him. He's still one of the youngest starting quarterbacks in the league going into next year. So it's essentially like drafting a quarterback. And if you're the Panthers, you ask yourself, where does he stack up amongst Justin Fields, maybe Mac Jones, Trey Lance? Because outside of Trevor Lawrence and Zach Wilson, from there, it's all question marks. You don't know who the Niners are going to take at 3, but a quarterback is going to be off the board there. So the pickings would have been slim at 8, and I don't think this is a bad move for the Panthers. I think they needed a quarterback, and they're building a solid team around him, now Sam Darnold. So this is a good situation for him to succeed, and, it's make or break time for Darnold.
The Carolina Panthers have Christian McCaffrey, DJ Moore, Robby Anderson, and you mentioned an okay offensive line. If Sam Darnold does not succeed in Carolina, he is a bust. No doubt about it. That's it. What do I think Sam Darnold is going to be? I think he's going to be an okay guy. I don't see him lighting the world on fire. I don't see Carolina winning a bunch of games because Tampa will be better, and I'm counting on the Saints to be better than them as well. Even if they have Winston or Taysom Hill starting, the Saints still have a very great roster. Atlanta and them, it's going to be a fight for who's going to finish last because I don't know about Atlanta. I like the Arthur Smith hire, but we still have to wait and see.
And who's going to be their quarterback?
The thing about it is that Matt Rule, excellent college coach. We still don't know how he's going to do in the pros. Joe Brady has had great offenses in the past, but at LSU, we can all say that he had a phenomenal team. Joe Burrow, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson. It's really hard
it was
to not
Alabama
succeed.
really.
It's really hard to not succeed with that type of talent. Now in the NFL, when you're going up against really great defensive coordinators week in and week out, how are you going to fare? And also, can you develop a quarterback in Sam Darnold? And the thing about me is that, the question of, is he an upgrade over Teddy Bridgewater? I don't think so. I don't think so. I think what you said is right. Darnold's ceiling is higher, but his floor is so much worse. Teddy Bridgewater, you know what he's going to give you. Sam Darnold, you don't know what he's going to give you. And their careers to this point have been polar opposites. Bridgewater, drafted by the Vikings, great defense, great running game, good weapons. People heralded him as the next really good quarterback early on, even though he never did much. And Sam Darnold's situation, he had to carry a franchise. And now the truth is coming out about Teddy Bridgewater that he's just a guy, and Sam Darnold is still a wait and see. But Sam Darnold got drafted to New York when we got Teddy Bridgewater. Darnold took his job, and now he's going to Carolina and taking his job again. So Teddy Bridgewater does not feel good about the situation, but if Darnold does not succeed in Carolina, he is a bust. That's 100% correct. I don't think there's a next chapter for Darnold outside of being a backup if he doesn't succeed in Carolina and proves himself as a starter. And also, fun fact, because I am a stalker and I am a NFL enthusiast, Robby Anderson, I went on his account because Robby's always hyping up Sam. On our time when we're Jets fans, when he was a Jet, he was always hyping up Sam. Since the move happened, no word from Robby. No tweet, no like tweets. Mm-hmm. So he's probably thinking, I'm not going to get 1,000 yards receiving.
If I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, and I'll try and look it up now because it was just you saying that made me think of it. Did he not say at one point last season that him and Sam Darnold never were on the same page? Or something like that?
I don't remember if he did or if he didn't, but
makes sense.
Robby Anderson has not liked any tweets about Sam Darnold going to Carolina. He's probably thinking in the back of his head, okay, now I'm going to go back to being an unknown receiver because Darnold is not a good quarterback. These receivers know if these guys can play or not. And Robbie's probably thinking to himself, man, I don't know if I'm going to do good or not with Sam under center.
Not to mention Robby. DJ Moore is just coming off another 1K season. Yep. So, him jumping into that situation, he's already comfortable with Teddy Bridgewater. Last year, him and Robby Anderson, I think Robby had about 8 now. I think he was short of 1K or he might have just got 1K. But both guys had really great seasons for them. And I think with Darnold coming in, now they have to adjust to a new quarterback who has shown the ability to make mistakes, underthrow his receivers, put his receivers already in bad situations. I remember, I was at that Bills-Jets game when Darnold, he threw it to Robby. Robby almost got his head taken off because he underthrew him. It was really bad.
The thing about it is that Josh Allen, whenever a quarterback doesn't do good in their first couple of seasons, the example is always Josh Allen. The thing about Josh Allen is that even though he didn't do great his first 2 seasons, you saw the flashes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. You could see the ball jump out of his hand. He had a great arm power. You knew, okay, he has some untapped potential there. But Sam Darnold, the ball doesn't come out of his hand the same way. It's just not the same.
He's definitely made a few of those eye-popping plays, but not nearly as many as you saw out of Josh Allen.
Even last year, week 1, when we blew the 16-point lead to the Bills,
that was comedy.
The Jets had a lead.
Yeah.
But if you remember correctly, that entire game, we could not move the ball on offense.
Yeah.
Even though the Bills were not scoring, they were moving the ball on offense. Josh Allen was making plays. And the thing about that is I think, Darnold has got heralded as this playmaker, but I think Josh Allen was always that playmaker. And in hindsight, it's 2020, and now we know what is true, what is false. But if Darnold doesn't succeed in Carolina, man, 3rd overall pick, bust.
I could see him being like one of those middle of the pack quarterbacks, like around the 15 range in the league. I don't know how much better he'll be than that, but I think this is a good situation for him.
Wait, are you saying that's like his ceiling? 15, like
That's what I could see him like realistically being.
Is Sam Darnold just a quarterback? Is Sam Darnold Josh Rosen with just better opportunities, with more of an opportunity to play?
I feel like Josh.
I think he's a little bit better than
I really didn't watch Josh Rosen, so I can't answer that.
I watched him his rookie year. Honestly, I don't think any quarterback would have been successful in that situation.
Well, did you see the flashes though? That's really the key.
I didn't see any flashes.
That's what it is. That's like
at least Sam Darnold has shown me a few things. But this is the thing. This is the thing
with Josh Rosen. The Cardinals had the first pick. That's why they moved on from him. If they did not have the first pick, they were going to stay with Rosen.
Yeah,
but don't you think if he was shown some flashes though, he would have stayed?
Nah, because Kyler was there. Kyler was just, you couldn't pass up on him.
Yeah.
The Jets never had a high pick, but the chance they did get a high pick to draft a quarterback, they're dumping Darnold. You know.
Yeah, but I will say I do think if they didn't have the second overall pick, I think they would have kept going with Sam. Like I think if they had the eighth overall pick.
Last year, if the Jets finished with a top 5 pick, they wouldn't have picked Tua or Herbert?
I think that's a different story. But I think this year, if they didn't have the number 2 pick, I think they would have kept moving forward with them. Like if they had the 8th pick this year, I think they would have moved forward with.
So just a quick question: I know who you think Carolina's going to take. Who do you think Carolina's going to take
at 8?
Yeah,
I mean they could look to add another weapon, maybe Kyle Pitts if he falls that far. That's the thing. Like I think Kyle Pitts should be a top 5 pick. Okay. Talent-wise. Like, I think he's going to be a top 5 player in this draft, but I just don't know where he's going to end up going. But I think that would be, like, I think another weapon would be a great addition, especially since they lost Samuel, and you're trying to capitalize on Darnold's value. Like, you want the best offensive situation around him, and there are so many good weapon options in this top 10 that they'll have their choice.
Yeah, I saw a mock that had Penny Sewell going to Carolina.
Well, that would be a steal.
Yeah, him dropping the 8.
If he fell that far.
Realistically, I think Rashawn Slater
could be there.
Christian Darrisaw maybe if they want to draft him that high. Taylor Martin is a good right tackle, so they need a left tackle. But Kyle Pitts is there. But if it was me,
if Pitts is there,
I would go defense, and I would pick Patrick Surtain II and pair him up with Dante Jackson. He just got A.J. Boye. And just keep on improving that defense because their defense is young. They're up and coming. They got Brian Burns, Hassan Reddick, Derek Brown, Jeremy Chin, Shaq Thompson.
That secondary.
They signed Denzel Perriman with Dante Jackson, A.J. Boye with Patrick Surtain II. I think they can be a really good defense. Last year, they weren't too bad. Yeah. It's just they were horrible on third downs. But I think they should go defense again because this draft, you can get a wide receiver or a tackle in the second or third round.
They still got a couple holes to fill out, but I like the direction they're heading. And also, just to call back to my point about Robby Anderson, he said, this was last season, I think, at one point, Darnold and Anderson's relationship was brought into question last season after Anderson replied with a thinking and frowning emoji to a 55-second video of Jets quarterbacks, including Darnold, missing him when he was open during his tenure. The undrafted wide receiver quickly put that to rest. I ain't throwing shade. Sam's my boy. We just ain't connect. I hate missed opportunities. What's the issue? The Jets weren't my only choice coming out undrafted. I just felt it was the best fit. So that's not a ringing endorsement.
Yes, and he did not, like I said earlier, he did not tweet about Darnold's arrival or like any tweets saying that he was excited about the move. So
after hearing that, yeah.
And the thing about it is that, I mean, I've been saying this for the longest. I even got into an argument with JC, I think last year about it.
Are you talking about?
Robby Anderson would have been a 1,000 yard receiver way before this past season if Darnold would have never underthrew him the amount of times that he did. Robby Anderson was always capable of doing what he's doing now. It's just the quarterback play was never there. And even with Teddy Bridgewater, an average quarterback, we see how much that can do for a receiver.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the play calling, maybe it's the quarterback. Now we're going to get a chance to really see Darnold.
It's like one of those rare moments where you're like, I wish I could have seen that. And now you actually get a chance to see Sam Darnold with a chance to, redeem himself. And Robby Anderson has been asked about Sam Darnold. He said, I think me and Sam had very good chemistry. I think that really stems from communication and trust. If you look at the growth between me and Sam, you notice towards the back end of me being with the Jets, him throwing the ball up in double coverage and just throwing the ball up. That came with time and just trust in me making those plays and coming through for him in the clutch, which I think is
when did he say
not true. He said it 2 days ago.
Okay.
He capping.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think.
I think he wants Teddy Bridgewater.
I think he's saying that because it's, what his agent told him to say.
I mean, I think Teddy Bridgewater is a better quarterback than Sam Darnold.
100%.
I think he is.
I think he's the safer bet, But I think the Panthers are trying right now to, like catch a slipstream and try and, leapfrog a couple teams here with, betting on Sam Darnold's potential, which is a big risk, especially because they gave up a second and a fourth next year, which could be pretty good picks. You said it. I don't think they're going to finish higher than third in their division.